Hello, everyone. This is Renuka from Microsoft, and thanks a lot for having me here. And first, my thanks goes to uh, there are many people who are instrumental in me getting into this project and having getting this opportunity to present here. I'm very thankful. So few of the people are like Li Hua, Guhan, Shane, Anshu, Chi, Isabel, many people have been helping me. And a big thanks to the community members who has put that time to review my proposal and review the document and bring to us to this stage. So thanks a lot to everybody and thanks a lot to OCP for this opportunity. And this topic today is Kubernetes manage Sonic Dockers. And yeah, I mean, what is Sonic? So most of you guys who are here knows what it is already pretty well. Just to give a highlight, it is a software that currently powers the Microsoft, the global cloud, the high performance, highly available, secure network. Today, the Sonic is powering the network software. And as we heard in the other presentations, it runs in many enterprises, cloud, and many private networks of various sizes. So, and again, as we heard earlier in the other topics, it runs on many different hardware platforms. And as the deployment presentation earlier, it runs in different network tiers. So it's been well used across the enterprise in all forms. So enterprise cloud network. So in enterprises and in cloud network, we are managing the switches in the scale of thousands. So really big. And as well, we have as private networks where there is really small. So we have the complete variation from very small to very big. And with the Sonic, as we again heard, it's rapidly evolving. Like it's really very highly impressive how it evolves with the new features and every, not just the new features, also it brings in better manageability, better performance. As you heard in the other talks, how the packet drops, how is it addressing various needs of managing it, various needs of, watching how the things work, the telemetry dashboard and all those things, right? And if there is an issue, how to debug. So in all forms, the Sonic is rapidly evolving, and very a lot. I mean, the whole thing is because of the community contribution. We have a great, big, huge community contribution for the Sonic. And coming to the next, like what are the strengths of Sonic, right? We have heard already many. So the first thing I see it as is a support and the contribution from the worldwide community. Like you heard from Dell, Broadcom, Mellanox, many more, right? From small to big. Many people who are very actively contributing and addressing various different problems at the same time. So it's making the Sonic really strong and grow. That's the big strength of Sonic in first thing. And then the second thing is the architecture. Again, we heard in the other presentation how the architecture helps adopt new things, right? So there's one of the things I could mention here is the decoupled hardware software. Right? They are so well decoupled that it helps you update the software. At the same time, it allows us to get more vendor support. More chip vendors are able to adapt to Sonic because of this decoupling. This architecture helps. This happens at a good space. And another very good thing I see in Sonic architecture is the feature level containerization. So containerizing a feature into one unit, right? That helps. That really helps in helping the feature independently evolve, right? Like it's really, again, we heard it in other presentations. It is allows us to accelerate the feature evolution by itself without having to worry about the entire ecosystem of the Sonic, right? So that's another big strength I see in Sonic. And again, but all these features have to work together seamlessly to give the NOS, right? It's not, everything is not just independent pieces. They all have to work together. And I find the current interface maybe not completely robust, but right now what we have is a simple, that's the key part for me, is a simple and well-defined interface and which can be extended easily. So this is the interface. This is one of the big strengths, in my opinion, in Sonic, that helps all these features, even though they can evolve independently, still work together to provide the world-class NOS. So, and also like, because these are switches, right? So they are running in an environment, and already the deployment environment has infrastructure to manage them, right? That's another advantage to our site. So if I want to add any additional management to Sonic, I don't have to build the infrastructure. Mostly in most places, whether it is small or big scale, there is already infrastructure to manage these Sonic switches. If I want to add one more management into Sonic Switch, it is very easy for me, add a service to this infrastructure. So makes things easier, right, to add on to that thing. These are the Sonic strengths as I see it. And then, okay, yeah, of course, in any software, we have limitations also. No software is completely robust. And there are a lot of limitations. Like, again, we heard it in many other presentations, right? So I'm just bringing up few of that, what I see from my current point of view. The containers or the containerizing the features are the great things, right? That helps you evolve independently. But at the same time, the way we manage Sonic is all these containers are hard coded into the install image, and we handle the image as a unit. We don't handle the container as a unit. So anytime you make an update, you have to build the entire image, and you have to, even for a very minor fix or a small feature update, anything, right? You make it, and even though you're only working on one small unit like DHCP relay or SNMP, you still have to build the entire image, right? And then once you say the entire image, then before you push it into production, you have to go through few steps of qualifying it, and signing off, and all the security checks on all those process you have to follow. And after that, again, with all that done, then installing a new image can be disruptive, right? Like the traffic. However, we have, improved a lot with a warm restart and all that stuff. But said that all, still you have some small amount of disruption. Image deployment is really invasive, pretty invasive. And so it's a very expensive process. So that's one of the main things, right? The individual containers are still in the switch. Individual images are available. One might think that you go and update the image, it should run, the switch should run, right? Manually, you go into the switch, update your container image, and restart that service, things should work. But it's not that easy. There are some constraints. So just manually doing it can lead to many issues, right? Like, for example, you update DHCP, but your update may not work in this. Okay, DHCP may be not a right example. In certain containers, can work only in certain platform dependent, right? So you have to be careful when you're updating that. You put the right version compiled for this platform on that switch, right? So there are other things, plus interoperability. So you update your version, but some other version which depends on you, you have to make sure when you're updating, other versions running, versions of the other features running in that switch are compatible, and rollback and image upgrade. There are many things, right? So there are, it's not as simple as just update the image. So we need some proper process to be able to build, update, and push the individual containers. So thanks to Isabel, who gave me this wonderful slide, and which shows what we have today. So today we have a pre-existing containerized architecture, as we see in the left, the DHC. So this is the Sonic switch. What we have here is what is current today. And what we are looking ahead is, so we have something like a Kubernetes master, and you just push a manifest into the master, and this master would go and update the content features per manifest on the switches it manage. So all you do is just push the manifest, and it should able to update the containers in the switches which it is targeted. And this should take care of all the constraints I just mentioned before. So this is what we are kind of looking ahead to give you a heads up, right? So feature level upgrade this is what we mean by feature level upgrade. So that means, okay, so which is meaning like now we are allowing the containers to come dynamically, right? So what we are looking ahead is some kind of infrastructure like this. I have a Git repo for manifest, and I have a deployment master cluster, and then I have a registry for holding the container images. So whenever I update, fix a bug, a small update, I build it, upload to my container images registry. And as well, depending on which container update and what are the other restrictions that had to be looked into before you push that image to a switch, explain all that in the manifest and check it in the manifest. So the deployment cluster, master cluster, is watches the manifest, pull down the manifest. According to the manifest description, it instructs the switches it manages to update to the new image. And then these switches, where it is deployed, will go to the registry, pull down the image, and run that new image. So this is roughly at a very, very high level, right? I mean, this is not going into further details because there are many more further details to look in, but to give an overview of what we are looking at a very high level. So when you say the deployment, right? So immediately it brings in many questions, right? Like, what are the things you have to, I mean, there are many things you have to take care of. It is not as simple as you push a manifest and it goes across, blast across, right? So we have, as I said before, when I update an image, that image may only work on certain base OS versions, or it could only work when the other versions of the other features matches some criteria, right? So on the network tier, I should be deployed for these reasons only in T1, only in T2. So more, right? Like there are many more things that I may have. I have to, these are the things I should be able to specify in some form. So the updated image which I pushed is deployed only at the correct targets. And also, even with all that, right? Like I'm having an enterprise like we saw now before, thousands of switches running Sonic. I don't want, when I put an update, to blast across all, right? So that is not a good way of doing it for various reasons, especially when that update may impact a small traffic disruption. And also, who knows, like this update may have a bug that it might cause a damage across board, right? So we don't want it. We want something controlled, right? We want to select a subset of the switches, push it, watch, and then push more. And then while doing that, make the redundancy check and all that, right? When you're selecting the subset. And also, so all the safety checks, we should have an infrastructure to put in the safety checks that must be followed, and with a controlled rollout is one thing. And also we have to be always careful about when you roll out a new change, we need to monitor, right? We need a proper monitoring to see how many switches are upgraded and how many failed and all that. And also, in case we find failure, we should have a strategy and we have an automated way of rolling back and then stop the upgrade. And in fact, for where it upgraded, roll back to the what is last known good. Right. So, and also another requirement being in the production switch, do it with the lowest service downtime. As that's another requirement. And the telemetry and dashboard on deployment state across the, we are looking at thousands, right? So we need a proper telemetry and dashboard. So to make it manageable. Okay, so now we saw what we are looking ahead. Now you would have got an idea of what we are trying to do here, right? Like, okay, we need a deployment cluster and we need all these requirements to meet for the deployment and a registry to hold images, all that, right? So then we were, I mean, this is again the deployment, this kind of clustering master. This is not a new technology or anything. This has been really pre-existing. In fact, we are a little bit late to get into this world, right? So there are a lot of proven technologies available. There are not maybe a lot. There are many proven technologies available, right? Like to specify a few: Kubernetes, Docker Swarm, OpenShift, a few more. I'm sure that there could be a few more which I don't have an idea right now. So there are a few options, right? And especially some clients are already using certain infrastructure like Docker Swarm or OpenShift already in their environment to manage other things, maybe not Sonic yet, but other things, right? So some people are already equipped with some infrastructure. So we were thinking like, okay, when we are kicking off, we have to kick off with one thing. We can't be kicking off with everything, right? So we said, okay, let's pick Kubernetes. The reason why we went for Kubernetes, because it is much more widely used than the other ones we are looking at. And the other good thing about Kubernetes is just like Sonic, it has a worldwide community support. So I'm really impressed with Kubernetes. Like when you have an issue or anything, you get a quick turnaround. So, and because of the heavy community support. So we are kicking off with that. But at the same time, even today, when we get this feature out, there may be some people who want Docker Swarm or who want OpenShift, right? So we are keeping the design open such a way, like if you want to extend to other features, other infrastructure, you should be able to do. So with that in mind, we are keeping the infrastructure open. So it should be just changing few things here and there. I mean, not here and there. There's in one or two places, then you are good to go with Docker Swarm or OpenShift. Okay, said that all right, like this is a whole big project. So it is not just one piece. There are many pieces like we saw in the deployment picture before. And so there are many pieces to attend to get this whole thing production ready, right? So, but right now my first step, as Gohan puts it, like we need the first step to take, right? The switch level support. So image level, okay, at the switch level, the switch should be ready to accommodate more deployment, right? That's a first step. So right now my presentation, I have been in my work also, I have been focusing only at the image level support, and we have PRs already ready for that. And so my presentation is also only focuses on image level support right now. And so today, right, today we are featured, what we have is a feature is running from local image, right? That is what we have today. And we call it local mode, just for the talk, right? So to mention, to represent local mode. And then a feature could be now with this new infrastructure, a feature could be deployed by a from remote also, which is we can call remote mode. And the requirement we have is a feature should be able to switch from between local and remote modes. So that's so that way you go with the current behavior or new, or and as needed, you should be able to switch between these for various reasons, right? Like we don't want to, once you go there, you are stuck. Not so we want that flexibility. And also the whole purpose of this whole remote mode is should be able to switch, upgrade, downgrade, however we want, right? So a feature in remote mode should be able to switch across versions, right? That's another basic requirement. And another basic requirement we added to the whole thing, like we saw also being a Linux based environment, that we are Sonic switch is open for new features which not necessarily built as part of image. So we, as part of this, now with the containerized build and the deployment ability, naturally we should be able to adopt support rather new features which are not pre-existing Sonic feature. We should be able to push new features into the Sonic switch. And once said that all, for any feature, new or existing, upgrade or anything, and we are required to support warm, fast, and cold reboot. Okay, said that, okay, what is the next thing what you see, right? Immediately, the first thing you do is what is config update, how the config is changing. So the config changes are pretty little small. So as you know, the moment we are bringing up a cluster, we need a BIP, right? The switch should know what is the IP of the master cluster. So we have one small object, Kubernetes master server, where you put an IP port. And then for in cases where your internal and your switches and the master are running in a secured network, a secured domain, so you can even go in secured access, so you don't have to worry about all the security related thing. And also at the end of the day, you need a now a switch, right? A control, right? I want to connect to master, or I don't want to connect to master. So mostly you want to connect to master. That's a common requirement, but you always need a way to stop it. And then another thing is feature, right? Okay, now we just show that we should be able to run in local mode or remote mode, right? So with this thing feature, one other object, we have feature and name. This is an existing table. The feature is we're just adding a few attributes to that, which is a set owner, maybe local or cube. Default is local, and no fallback to local, because in case whatever reason when you are doing a cube mode, right, and then the I mean it needs few things for the remote cluster to deploy, right? Maybe your switch is not connecting, or switch is not reachable, or maybe even that feature does not have a proper manifest deployed. Many reasons why a remote may not be able to deploy the feature. In which case, by default, you should be able to fall back to local. And in some few cases, you may not like to fall back to local. So in those, to address that scenario, we have a no fallback. And also with that, there is something called failure reduction. So even when you're expecting the cube to deploy, the cube maybe for a part of restart, right? The cube deployed and now you do a restart the service, the cube may not deploy for various reasons, some failures happening, right? So in which case you can have a failure reduction mode, and using which you can say set how many seconds you wait before the cube should deploy. If not, you fall back right to the local. So this is also our log message. So many reasons, right? So basically, what is considered as failure? So that's the config. Once I say the config, and naturally it becomes a state. And what is state? And for what we saw in config, we have the reflection of that in the status. So what's the IP? Whether it's current or last connected, and the status of the connected, true or false, and when it was the last update happened. And the same way for the feature, who is the current owner? It's either local or cube. None means no one is, the container is not even running. And what is the ID of the container? Because when the remote is managing, there's no more, we have a nice name of SNMP, SWSS or stuff like that. So you may not be able to rely on the name anymore. So the ID of the container is recorded in the state DB, and which version are we currently running? This is very key. And this will go out as part of telemetry also, which can be used by the dashboard and also to see how many switches have upgraded and all that. So this container version. And then this is a remote state, right? So when you're deployed the remote, there are some states, like it can be none, which means the remote is not even doing anything, or pending, which means it's deployed and it is pending to go, or currently running, or stopped. And what is the update timestamp? Last update. And okay, right now we know in Sonic everything is managed by systemd, right? So that in new things also systemd will continue to manage all features. And the systemd rules to start, stop will stay the same in both modes. And systemd calls today Docker start. I mean, the systemd rules are very complex rules are there, all dependency, all the complication, all the complex requirements for a service to start or upon stop, what to happen, pre, post, everything is taken care by these scripts. So at the end of the thing, when the Docker can be started or stopped, it just calls Docker start or stop, right? And now in the case of remote, instead of start stop, it will raise a trigger to the remote, which will do the same, right? Start or stop. And in case of Kubernetes, the trigger is add or remove label. And very interestingly, I was even surprised myself that when we started doing this, the whole thing looks so big, right? Like I'm changing the mode, I'm opening up the switch for a remote management. But surprisingly, the architecture of Sonic is so good that I was able to do the whole thing with a very few code changes. All I did is replace the Docker start stop with a new container command, start stop. And this new container command is simply a very simple wrapper, right? For local, it just called Docker start stop. And for remote, it just creates the label, however, right? Like depending on Kubernetes or whatever. So this one wrapper, a small wrapper is all I changed. And also added a state update script. So every container on post start and pre stop calls this script, which does our state DB update, what we saw, the version, container ID, all that. And all I added is one new daemon to watch the config and state changes for auto transitions. And this daemon, it just watches it and do a restart as needed. Otherwise, very simple daemon. And on all the remote commands, the commands that really talks to the Kubernetes server, the API server, are all in just one module. So if you want to change to Docker Swarm or OpenShift, just update the module, and you are now with a different deployment architecture. Okay, this is just to give a high overview of how the whole thing works. So, and local to remote, when I'm transitioning from local to remote, I start. Today, what it happens is when you do a start, the local container starts and the Docker wait is sleeping on it, watching it. And see, someone changes the owner to cube. All it does is it sets a label to the kube master, and the kube master does a deploy, and the deploy comes to kubelet in switch, running in the switch, and which starts the kube container. Right now you see both local and kube are running. And the kube comes up using the state update script. It updates the state DB to a pending state. The daemon sees that and then stops the local and sets the state DB to ready, which lets the kube continue, right? After that, only the actual application starts. And in the other scenario where you change, upgrade from one version to another version, right? So in this case, Dockerbait is sleeping on a version kube running N. And in apply in master, you say you put a new manifest for the same feature and same feature for a different version, right? So then it comes to kubelet and it runs now the N+1. The N+1 calls the state update script, which puts it in pending state, and the daemon notices it and stops the N and sets the state DB to ready, which lets the N+1 go. So this is how the and okay, the version mismatch ahead happens. Looking ahead, now we have opened up, right? Like it's a big thing, right? First big step, we have opened up for remote feature management, which is a basic step, right? But now, but it's just opened up, meaning I rely completely on master for the correct deployment. So if there is an incorrect deployment, I mean, we just run. We don't have any control inside the switch to make sure to check anything, right? And so, and also there are a lot more we need, right? Basically carry forward on image upgrade, verification for compatibility, authenticity, and auto service create for new features, extending monitor support, many more things. But these things, for these, we need more work to do, right? Because what I'm today using is the container images. What we built today is the same image I'm pushing into registry. So it does not give me any help to be able to do all this more intelligently. So next in line, what we have is Sonic App Store, right? It's nice naming. I like this Sonic App Store. And so this is our next vision, right? Like upgrade, instead of having a simple container, now upgrade the containers to be a self-described package. So with the inherent manifest. This manifest should tell you everything about the package, what it is, what it depends on, how to run it, which platform it supports, a lot of things, right? What the interdependency, OS versions it support, everything. So basically this one manifest also could help, using that, I should be able to generate kube manifest, Sonic service scripts, should be able to auto create, and Sonic App Store will be only hold all reviewed and tested and approved packages, so we can reliably go there. And Sonic Switch can pull from App Store, or it can be pushed by the remote deployment master. But now with all the manifest inside, we have much more capacity to verify whether we are running the right things or not. And so that's the thing. And since, as I said, we have a Sonic Kubernetes subgroup, and which meets every week. Bi-weekly, we might become, depending on the requirements. So you may join that. And also there is a HLD available, and there is only 2 PRs we have for the code changes. And the app extension, the App Store, what I'm talking about, the HLD is ready for review. So please go ahead and do. And said that, I have a quick video if possible, to run. Let me try a new share. Sorry. Let me quickly bring the video. Okay, so here is a small video. So I don't know if I have to.
Renew.conf, there is no audio for the demo.
External infrastructure for managing the containers on the Sonic Switch. And here I have the blue color screen is a Sonic Switch running the latest master with my code update. And if with the new commands, I can show you the current status of the remote connection using show kube server. And that shows that the server is connected at this time point with this IP. And now, and we have enabled a subset of features for kube enabled. through Minigraph for the phase 1, and one of them is SNMP. And I'm going to demo on SNMP. And right now on the top, you see the status of the SNMP. It's container version 100, current owner local, remote status none. And the set owner here in the show feature config shows the owner as cube. And in the cube master, I have a couple of daemon sets deployed, ready to go. So I'm going to apply the label for 1.1.1 to go. So I enable 1.1.1. And now the container version, which is local, should be moving to 1.1.1. And you see the remote state pending. The version is 1.1.1, but still the current owner is local. And now you see the current owner is gone, none, and remote state is still pending. And soon the cube container should take over. Yeah, now the cube is running with version 1.1.1. And if you look at the Docker PS, you see the SNMP is being managed by deployed by cube only. And now to demo the upgrade from 1.1.1 to the next version 2.0.0, I'm going to apply through a new manifest. So I'm going to enable it. So the new manifest is already applied here. So I'm just enabling it here. So now still the 1.1.1 is running. Soon 2.0.0 should come over and replace 1. Yeah, see now the container version is 2.0.0 in the pending state. 1.1.1 is already gone. And the next update of the watch, I'm basically doing a watch on the status. So you should see current owner becoming cube and the container ID for the new one. Yeah, right now the container ID is new, the new container ID and the version, and then the current owner is cube. But if you look at the Docker PS, and you would see there are two sets of containers running. That is because two manifests are being applied for both versions. And since 1.1.1 is smaller than 2.0.0, it is not running just with 2.0.0. But as for the kubelet is concerned, it is trying to deploy both. So I'm going to the master, remove the 1.1.1. So now if you see, you will have just one set of the SNMP parts running as deployed by the cube. And now I would like to change the ownership of for the demo purpose. I'm going to configure the ownership back to local. So sudo config feature owner local. So this should take the SNMP local. And this should make stop the current cube deployed container. So stopped. The 2.0.0 is stopped. The current owner is already gone, none. And soon you should see 1.0.0 coming up with the current owner as local. Yeah, as a new container ID. And if you look at the Docker PS, and you would only see the local Docker running. So this is our quick short demo on think your comments. Please send your comments and reviews to help make it better. Thank you very much for attending.
Thanks, Renuka. So we are out of time for this session, so we will skip the Q&A.